Hi, this is Zach here with the Bulletin Board Heroes, the weekend edition for Sunday, August the 5th, here at Zach'sTradersCafe.com. Starting off with the FTSE 100, which had a reasonable end to the week after the rug was pulled ahead of the probably unnecessary interest rate hike. We've had an end of day close, or a weekly close, in fact, above the 50-day moving average. That was around 75.30, and above that, looking for a retest of turn of the month resistance around 77.20. On the downside, not looking for anything lower than the low that we already had on Thursday around this 74.50 level, maybe a little bit lower than that. Moving on to the DAX, which has had a bit of a rug pull as well. Here we can see that the index didn't have a great start to August, gapping down through the 50-day line, but found support where it should have at the floor of that rising one-year trend channel. That's around 15,800 now. And above that, we're looking for hopefully a rebound back to at least the 16,300, 16,500 area. If you're cautious, wait for the RSI to get back above neutral 50. It's for just under 45 at the moment, or an end of day close above the 50-day moving average. But that level there around 15,700, the floor of that channel, and also recent support. So the charting worked on that. Moving on to the Dow. And here we were expecting a bit of a tussle for this market around the 35,000 level. The current situation is that we've broken back within that rising trend channel, the sort of mini channel there from back in March, 35,200. And below that, there's a risk of a retest of the old June-July resistance around 34,500. Hopefully, we'll get away with nothing worse than that. I suppose the obvious other destination would be the 50-day line at 34,200, but going for 34,500 as support if it is required. Moving on to Bitcoin, which has been disappointing for a number of weeks now, and rather frustrating as well. We've got the 50 and 200-day lines rising, but we already had a false break of that July resistance line, so that needs to be shuffled along, and really sort of suggests that we're just looking for an end of day close back above 30,000, which is a little bit away at the moment. Below 30,000, there's the risk of a retest of the 28,300 zone, which was basically the late May resistance, and that could come in as new support. I suppose the nightmare here was that we would have to go all the way back and test the 200-day moving average around 26,700, but that's not quite on the cards yet. On to the stocks, and quite a selection today. A lot of favorites. I suppose it lives up to being they live up to being bulletin board heroes. Starting off with Artemis, which I don't think is really on the map with many people, but we've had a sideways shuffle above a rising 50-day line. That shuffle, I suppose, really started back at the beginning of July. Initial target here around the 1 penny mark, and obviously we were already overshot that above a penny on the second go, and we're looking for 1.4 pence maybe as soon as the end of next month. But that, with the way the shares have found support wholly above the 50-day rising 50-day line, looks very encouraging indeed. At this stage, only back below it at 0.8, questioning the idea of a move to the upside and filling all those gaps to the downside. The whole rally here started with the unfilled gap to the upside back in June, so this does look very strong in a charting sense. Moving on to Avacta, which has been a rather horrible journey over the recent past, especially the pullback from the February peaks. But we've had another attempt here to break that falling wedge, which has been in place since February. We obviously had a full storm back in June, which was rather painful and possibly unnecessary. But a bear trap rebound from below June support there around the 98 pence level. The longer we stay above that, the greater the chance of a move to £1.30 by the end of next month. It could be by the end of this month, but given the share's recent track record, maybe better just to put that estimate back a few weeks. On to Canadian overseas, which been going on about like a broken record over the last week or two. The start of the rally here was that unfilled gap to the upside outside a falling wedge, and the break of that gap up day around 2.1 pence, 2.2 pence, set the scene for the rally. So two unfilled gaps to the upside now. Hit our first target there at 3.25, and ended the week on our second target there at 4.4 pence, or just below, and the next target hopefully over the next week or so would be up to around 5.6 pence at that late May resistance line projection. So amazing to see Koppel do that. It started off with the bullish divergence there, so this had everything that you want to see in a potential turnaround situation. On to a stock which I don't think I've ever looked at, Cenkos, but interesting that the shares have had a good run here, especially if you compare it with the performance of WH Ireland. Here we've had a broadening triangle rebound after a little minor bear trap that we had at the beginning of last month. Current view is that above the 50-day line around the 29 pence level, we could head up to 45 pence well before the end of this month. And I suppose it just suggests there's something going on here, because why would anything be going on in this kind of stock in such a dreadful market in terms of liquidity and for brokers, etc. Moving along to a stock which has had a decent end to the week, CleanTech Lithium. Here there was an unfilled gap to the upside at the, basically in the middle of last month. We've then peaked at 60, just near that target that we had there, around 67, well, going up to 70p. And current situation is that we found support above the 50-day line, a rising 50-day line, which is normally a good sign. This looks like a V-shaped bull flag and looks like we'll head back to 70 pence by the end of this month. The other final point to note is the extended bounce off neutral 50, which also gives this a nice look near term. On to Caracal, which gave a pleasing announcement regarding production. That should be the kicker for the shares to head back from the low reaches of the recent past, so just below 0.3. Above 0.3, we're looking for the shares to initially get up to the 200-day line, 0.46, and then maybe up to a long-awaited journey to 0.6, which we've been looking for quite some months. Obviously, funding news, etc., also in the mix there. Onto a stock which I missed out looking at during the week, so here it is. E-Star Resources. It's a W-shaped reversal. We've broken neckline resistance at 2 pence above that. Looking for the shares to head up to at least 3 pence at the 200-day line, and ideally up to as high as 3.75, which is the top of that broadening triangle from back in March. Bit of a bear trap effect there during the week as well, so that also helps E-Star look good, but towards 4 pence by the end of next month or sooner, it looks to be the picture there. On to Mkango, another stock which I narrowly missed looking at during the week. I was waiting for the shares to break that line of resistance there. Around 10.75 above that, we're looking for 14 pence, perhaps as soon as the end of this month. A sort of inverted head and shoulders type set up there with that right-hand shoulder pushing the shares up and also the RSI breaking through the 50 level. Another stock which has been a decent riser this week is Pelatro. Here you can see that it's interesting revival within a broadening triangle, we hope, from the end of May. Also gapping through the on the close through the recent neckline resistance. And the view here is that above that neckline resistance, around 2.6 pence, we're looking for as high as 6 pence by the end of next month, also coming off a very oversold RSI in the low single digits. So there should be some pent-up momentum there. Premier African is next, and here we've got a decent reversal situation in the making. Had a bounce off RSI 50, which has given us this bull flag above the broken resistance line there from June. Initial target here up to retesting the top of that gap from back in June at 0.7 pence, but if you're cautious, you'll probably be waiting for an end of day close through the 50-day moving average of 0.57. That may be the thing to do given the rather rocky ride we've had for the stock in the recent past. But above 0.57, looking for 0.7 on Premier African. A stock which doesn't get much mentions, or doesn't get many mentions, is Scirocco, but it's here in the bulletin board heroes. Here you can see that we've got this the shares breaking through our initial price channel target around the 0.5 pence level, above 0.5, looking for 0.8 as soon as the end of next month. An extended recovery here for the shares, and also we've got the 50 and 200-day lines now both rising, which should speed things up over the near term. On to a stock which is looking quite interesting at the moment, Southern Energy. Haven't covered this for a little bit now. Here we've got a sideways shuffle actually below the 50-day moving average, but the unfilled gap to the upside to end the week does suggest that while we're above recent support around 21.6 pence, we could head up to 30 pence initially by the end of this month. Big picture target, so we've got high hopes, would be up to the low 40s at the top of that February broadening triangle. Moving along to the star of the show on Friday, which I'm sure the Bears will be trying to regroup from. A massive move to the upside, and so there should be, given that SpaceX is in the mix. The view here is that above the 200-day line around 6.6 pence, we're looking for an ultimate move here, maybe as soon as the end of next month, up to 14 pence. Ideally, the shares stay above our initial target there at 8 pence, but that might be asking a bit too much. But at least above the 200-day line, 14 pence seems to be on the cards. Finishing off with one of the recent big winners on the stock market, Upland Resources, had a bit of a consolidation at and around the previous target at 1.5 pence, but now looks as though it's ready to hit as high as 2.6 pence, maybe as soon as the end of this month, while there is no end of day close back below the 1.5 pence level. That's it from me today. More updates tomorrow.